Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we're here with the owner of New Day Pastoral Counseling Services from Bloomingdale, Illinois. Reverend Carlene Appel joins us here once again. Excited to talk to her about the work she has done for so many years and all she's doing to help those out there. And I know today's topic is another good one. We appreciate you always, focusing on something new each time to really guide and help others. So, Reverend, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm Reverend Carlene Appel, aka the Rev, and I own New Day Pastoral Counseling Services in Bloomingdale, Illinois, in the Chicago area, and we offer in-home visits for counseling in the 7 counties around Chicago, and actually online anywhere. So a lot of people are doing video sessions since the pandemic, and that's fine. So I can do those from anywhere in the United States. And also have a corporate division where I am the first in the nation to offer temporary chaplain / spiritual counselors for healthcare businesses, and that's going well. So, and it was funny because you could get a temp nurse or social worker or CNA, but nobody was doing chaplain, so I guess I was supposed to pick that up. And I did. Yeah. So anyway, and it's funny, as we're preparing for the next show, it's like, well, what am I going to talk about this time? And something comes up. And so anyway, this one is compassion fatigue. And actually, it's not just for doctors, nurses, clergy, and all that. It's for anybody who's a caregiver, which means anybody who's caring for their mom or dad or some other relative. And it's when you don't take time for yourself, and you can end up having a breakdown and unable to work anymore. And I had to take a year off. I had a wonderful church I was pastoring in, and I got sick and I couldn't work for a year or so. But God redeemed it. He put me right into hospice, and so this is year 15 that I've been doing that. But let me get right into the topic. I call it the thief in the shadows of care because it's kind of like Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff just did this stuff really sneaky, and then one morning his family woke up and found out, oh, we don't have any more money. Well, so that's what compassion fatigue does. It just steals from you, and it can take time. Mine took 3 years to emerge, and it was horrible. I didn't talk about it for a long time because of the stigma. And then I realized one day I was doing a presentation for a group of people, and I'm thinking to myself, what are you hiding this for? This could help people. So I finally spoke about my own experience and, having to go to the behavioral health unit, spend 3 days there. And that actually turned out to be a good thing because I ended up, I needed medication for a period of time. And just that year, I guess I could call it a sabbatical. And that's what a lot of clergy will do, or people in academia will do when they need to take some time off. But anyway, so it's for anybody who cares for someone. And when you don't take time for yourself, and when I work with my hospice families, I always break it down really simple because they're going to make excuses. I don't have time. It says, well, so with your feet up and have a cup of coffee or tea, take a walk around the block. And, when you get it down that simple, it's like, oh, I guess there's something I can do. So it drains your personal satisfaction bank. It drains your resiliency bank. And what I say is, think of it like a bank account, a checking account. You need to make deposits, right? Because you can't keep writing checks. If you write checks and they don't put in any money, pretty soon you're going to have no more money. And that's what happens with compassion fatigue. You wake up one morning and you just have no more energy. I don't want to do this anymore. yeah, it can cost you a job, can cost you your family. So yeah, so that I call it an insidious thief. And so, or we could say your resiliency bank has gone belly up, much like those corporations that don't watch their finances. So anyway, but it steals over time. So it's nothing that happens quickly. And like I said, mine took 3 years.
Wow.
And it can take weeks, but you get the idea. Yep. that takes time to surface. And so, and you may not be able to care for others. And I had recently, I was talking to a client's daughter, and she really needed to go get a medical issue taken care of. And I said, when are you going to go? And she said, well, she was kind of hedging. And I said, well, look, I said, if you don't get taken care of, you may end up really sick, and then you're not going to be able to take care of your loved one. Does that work? And she said, oh, okay. So when you put it, sometimes you have to really get to the point, because especially like a spouse caring for a spouse, or anybody caring for a family member, mom, dad, sister, brother, they often, especially husband, wives, they don't want to take time off because they feel like it's they're cheating their loved one by going and doing something for themselves. And so I use the airplane comparison, because when you fly on an airplane and they do their little presentation, they say if the pressure drops and the oxygen mask drops and you're with a child, please put yours on first before you put theirs on. And it seems like, well, isn't that kind of backwards? Well, no, because if you're passed out, you're not going to be able to help your child for sure. Yeah, and even in first responder training, you learn that you're number one. And the reason you learn that you're number one is because if you don't take care of yourself and you become a second victim, then they have to divide attention between you and that victim we were originally going to help. So it's the same way with taking care of a loved one. You have to do something for yourself. It doesn't have to be a lot. I mean, some people think it means, you go on a big vacation or something, but that's not it. Take those little 5-minute vacations. And often the little ones make a bigger difference than taking a big one, I remember going on vacation for 2 weeks one time, and it was like after a week, I was ready to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I like the vacation, but it's stretching out a little bit too long. So anyway, so we tell people, don't ignore this. When I make it that simple for you, sit with your feet up, have a cup of coffee or tea or something like that, take a walk around the block. You really can't get much more basic than that. And all it means is to take a little time for yourself, because you're worth it. You're worth it. You're valuable. There's nobody like you. And, God created each one of us as unique human beings. So there's nobody like. Yeah. And so there's a difference between compassion fatigue and burnout. Okay. And people say, well, what is it? Burnout is the result of an excessive workload. So, and if I had my PowerPoint, I could bring up my PowerPoint presentation, but I've got this lady sitting at a desk, and she's absolutely covered in papers. So, difference with compassion fatigue, it's the cost of caring too much or caring so much. Mm-hmm. And so it affects only caregivers. And caregivers can, family members, nurses, doctors, any of us who are, counselors, any of us who are in the people caring business, probably even in yours too, Jill.
Yeah, for sure.
You interview people, and you can really get involved in that interview to the point where you don't take time for yourself. So, and your kids need their mom. So
Of course. Yeah.
of course, yeah, those precious kids. So physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, so all kinds of different ways it just affects us. And so let's talk about what brings it on.
Yeah.
What brings it on is let's see. So actually, let me tell you what it does. It takes the joy out of your work. So if you're taking care of somebody, if you're interviewing people and it's like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up one day, I cannot do this anymore. So it's going to make you unable to feel or unable to care for others. For say a CNA or nurse, nobody can take care of so-and-so like I can. No, nobody can take care of them like you can, but somebody can take care of them similarly to you, because they can provide loving, effective, efficient care. Nobody will do it exactly like you, but believe me, your patient will be fine in the morning,
Yeah.
So here's a couple recipes for compassion fatigue. So these are all your ingredients. Take one caring, compassionate, empathetic person. Add a loved one or a long-term patient who suddenly declines. Heaping scoop of back-to-back heavy cases or multiple casualties or deaths, especially for our first responders when there's a mass casualty.
Yeah.
So one right after the other, so there's part of it. And then add your case dynamics that mirror your own current crisis, because, we bring stuff with us too.
True.
Or maybe it resurrects a past traumatic event you went through. So there's a good recipe for it. And there's another one, the insane belief that you must be available 24/7, 365. Nobody can do that, I saw a notice from a manager once that said, you need to be available at all times. I take the phone with me to the shower. Well, fine, you take a phone with you to the shower, but you're going to regret that eventually because you won't have any time for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to take a break, and I think anybody, I think probably people can understand this a lot is stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads. You try to talk on the phone or you go to the bathroom and it's like, they want to talk to you.
You remember those days, right?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. Yep. And it's like, geez, and it gets worse as they get older, so when you're on the phone, it gets worse as they get older. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
They want you more. Yeah. So nobody can be available 24/7, so, and a big one is no clearly defined boundaries. We all need boundaries, healthy boundaries. Okay. And those are for self-preservation. Because you're going to break down somewhere if you don't have boundaries. And a lot of my trauma clients I work with in my counseling practice, I teach some boundaries, and I have to reinforce that boundaries are for you. And when they start getting confusing, I say, who did I say boundaries are for? Oh, they're for me. Yeah. And I tell people that not everybody's going to like your boundaries, because if you've been letting people monopolize your time, and this happens a lot in families, you get some aunt or uncle who wants to monopolize your time, and you set a boundary, and they're not going to like it because they've gotten used to it, and so that's what I tell them. I said, you need to that boundary is for you. You need to keep it whether they like it or not. And I have them practice in the mirror. that's a great way that, that I consider one of the tools in their tool bag is a mirror to practice. Talk to the mirror so that you get more confident in stating your boundaries. And as long as they're reasonable boundaries, of course, the other person's not going to think they're reasonable, but that I don't care, neither should they. And again, nobody can take care of my mom like I can. Well, no, nobody can take care of it exactly like you, but there are people who are qualified, And you say, but they need me. And we get into neediness,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, neediness can turn into, it can really bring you into depression if you don't realize that, they may need you, but you need you too.
Yeah.
You have to take care of you, because if you break down, you're not going to be able to take care of them. And then what good will that be? And here's one I think we all can identify. Here's the bonus multiple choice. If I don't do it, it won't get A, it won't get done, or B, it won't get done right.
Yeah.
The perfectionist.
Guilty.
A lot of us can identify.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a real perfectionist, and then when I got into ministry, I realized that I had to let go of some of that. And my internship supervisor or ordination supervisor, she told me, when, don't think of when somebody needs your, and don't think of things as an interruption. Think of them as a ministry opportunity. So I learned to look at it in a different way, and I kind of like models Jesus. Jesus turned the culture on its head as far as the way people were treated, women, poor people, those who were in need. So we're teaching people a new way, but yeah, if I don't do it, it won't get done, right? And so that perfectionism thing, it's, and I know shop owners like this, and they want their businesses to grow, but their business isn't going to grow if they don't release some of that to other people, because other people are qualified too. And you're not going to have a very good business atmosphere if you are threatened by people who can do something better than you. That's part of being a leader.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me recently, and it makes a lot of sense, people don't need managers, they need leaders. They don't need to be managed. If you have a talented employee, let them shine, because that's only going to enhance your business and take it to directions that you never dreamed possible. But you have to release you have to release the talent to do their job. If you're the business owner, you don't have to worry about people taking over, because you're the owner, right?
True. Yeah.
But even if you're not the owner, in order for your business to grow and to reach new milestones, you've got to be open to new ideas and change and everything. But unless we get too far off topic. But anyway, so compassion fatigue. So there's a lot of different things that can go into compassion fatigue, but it's really, it comes down to taking care of yourself. It doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be complicated, something simple. Watch a comedy. Oh my gosh, those are great. I tell people though to go online and look for dry bar comedy. It's clean comedy, honestly, and these are comedians that go all over the United States and do comedy. And and I'm laughing my behind off because they're so funny, but it's a dry bar comedy. Yeah, it's excellent, excellent shows. Anyway, so, if you have some symptoms of compassion fatigue, it doesn't mean that, you have it, but you really have to assess, where you're at in terms of self-care, and that self-care is important. So, because otherwise you can start doing like unproven feelings of failure. You can become emotionally distanced from people. Your self-esteem goes down. You can just feel emotionally drained. Feel like you're incompetent, start to question whether you're even qualified to do your job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some unrealistic expectations of yourself. And a big one is losing joy in doing your vocation. I'm not talking about just your job, your vocation, what you feel called to. Like for yourself, Jill, you're called to interview people and do things along journalistic line like that.
Yeah.
That's your vocation. And when you start losing your joy in that, then that's a sign that you should pay attention to. When you start avoiding people, places, circumstances, when the phone grows hair, if you try to pick it up, then there's a problem. So it's temporary though, so good news. And I know it's coming to the end of our broadcast, but good news, it's 100% reversible. And it's reversible by simply finding something you like to do and do it. I mean, you can do some routines, when you're in the shower, pretend you're washing off all the, start naming the things that are bothering you, wash them off in the shower. That's fun. You can you can write down the things that are bothering you, put them in a little bowl and burn them symbolically, that I'm burning away all those. And so, if you do sense you're having compassion fatigue, you need to debrief from that. You need to recharge and then return to normal functioning. So what we do when we do critical incident stress debriefing with first responders is we debrief them, but we also prepare them for the next time, because there will be a next time. When you get overwhelmed with your normal coping abilities suddenly get overwhelmed. And so we want them to return, so that we plan for what are you going to do next time this happens. And so then we can release them back to normal functioning. So anyway, but you can take temporary mental health breaks, practice your calming techniques. If you want to do something really simple, lengthen your spine, do a pelvic roll forward, so that you're stretching your spine. And what that does is that your nervous system highway, I call it your highway there, it clears right up to your, spinal base where you're, it's in your brain, and it's going to start releasing all those nice hormones to calm you and make you happier, You can do prayer, you can do meditation, and you can play some, go for a walk. Walking is wonderful. You don't have to, if you want to run, go ahead, but walking, walk at a nice steady pace. Walking is great. My husband and I went out for a 3-mile walk yesterday. It was nice.
Wow.
But yeah. We last year, I think it was, we were doing those almost every day. So yeah, and for people who can't walk real well, you can take a walk just back and forth in front of where you live. You can do that. Or, just get creative. Watch a comedy, watch, a sappy, silly movie, or don't watch the news, please. That's what we tell people. Don't watch the news, because there's this, if you want to get stressed out, watch the news. Yeah. So anyway, but that's in a nutshell, that's what compassion fatigue is and how we can beat it. So if anybody needs any more information on that, they can go to my website at www.newdaypcs.org, And in the contact section, they can send me a note and I will respond to them. And if they want to set up a counseling session, we can do that. I have blogs, that address different issues. They can see that. Let me see. Or they can call me at 630-557-6229 or email me at rebcappel@newdaypcs.org. Okay. And I am the Reverend Carlene Appel, AKA the Rev, and New Day Pastoral Counseling Services.
Beautiful. Thank you for being here. Glad we got the Zoom as well, live today as well here on Zoom. For those of you listening on the podcast, worked out great today. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe.
Have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.